is. God told a prophet of God to go marry a prostitute. Because his wife, God's wife, was a prostitute. So he's going to have him imitate his life. And I titled this message a long time ago, Whorehouse Religion. House of Ill Repute. That's what it's called. We call those places houses of ill repute. Houses of sin. And 2 times in the book it calls it that. Beth Aven. Beth Aven. When you come to the word Beth, it means house. Aven of sin. House of sin. And God lived, his nation lived in a house of sin. His wife, Israel, and Judah were both prostitutes, basically. He lumped them together, pretty much lumped together as prostitutes. And we'll get into that. Look at it. Hosea. Hosea means what? Jehovah is help. Hosea means Jehovah is help. This period of time is about 789 to 725 BC, give or take a few years. Okay, I mean that's not hard and fast, written in stone number. All right, let's look at some of it. Hosea. A strange marriage. Hosea, wife and children. The first 3 chapters of the book of Hosea, we're going to try to cover this whole book today, by the way. The first 3 chapters of the book of Hosea talk about Hosea's absolute turbulent marriage. Hosea has, or this woman, Gomer, has 3 children. Only one of them are Hosea's. The first child is his. The other 2 are her lovers. All right. The word of the Lord came to Hosea, the son of Beri, during the days of Uzziah, Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah, kings of Judah. So it tells you about what period of time this is. All right? During the days of Jeroboam, the son of Joash, king of Israel. When the Lord first spoke through Hosea, the Lord said to Hosea, "Go take yourself a wife of whoredom," or harlotry, or prostitution. Now, and have children of her harlotry, for the land commits flagrant harlotry, forsaking the Lord. First of all, Samaria down there, Judah never, even Judah never loved the Lord. They thought, that was where Jerusalem was, And then Samaria, after Solomon died, Judah and Israel split. One of the kings went down to Samaria. He started another religion up on Mount Gerizim. Remember that? On Mount Gerizim, he built another temple up there and built a golden calf and told them this was their God. All right, so that's idolatry. That's whoredom, according to the Bible. His wife became a prostitute, and she prostituted with these images up there. The Baal. You heard of the Baals? The Baal. Baal was a god of fertility, and up in the high hills they would have women that dedicated themselves to the temple of this god. And all the farmers in the land would go up there, and they would pay these women because they were prostitutes. And when they would commingle with these women, they would say that they had good crops coming. When they sowed their seed with the women, they had good crops coming. Isn't that an ungodly, hellish religion? I told you we were in the dregs of society here. This book is, like I said, the title of this message is Whorehouse Religion. That's what they had. Their religions were nothing but houses of ill repute. Well, take yourself a wife, in verse 2, of harlotry, and have children by her. For the land commits flagrant harlotry, forsaking the Lord. So he went and took Gomar. Gomar means hot stuff.
What?
Hot. Heat. Hot stuff. Hot chick, you know. That's what she is. She's a hot chick. All right? The daughter of double embrace. In other words, you guys might get this saying that the woman has more than one lover. And even her daddy said that, okay? And she conceived and bore him a son. Bore him a son. And that's the only time this is going to be said. She bore him a son. And the Lord said to him, name him Jezreel. Jezreel. All right? It comes from two Hebrew words. Zerah, which means seed, or to sow, seed of God. So we have Hosea. Now his name Jehovah saves, or Jehovah is help. Okay, that's what Hosea means now. He is a type of the Lord. Now here, the Lord, he has this wife, who was the only faithful little gal in Israel, basically. All the way through time. The Lord said that one woman of Israel, one virgin would conceive and bring forth a child, and he would be the Lord. Who was that faithful woman? At least one, Mary. She brought forth the Messiah, John 1:14.
Bitter.
What?
Oh, bitter did it.
What?
The bitter did it. Bitter. Didn't Mary mean bitter or Mara?
Oh, yes. Mary means bitter. The Lord said to him, name him Jezreel for yet a little while, and I will punish the house of Jehu for the bloodshed of Jezreel, and I will put an end to the kingdom of the house of Israel. And he goes on here, and he said, it will come about on that day that I will break the bow of Israel in the valley of Jezreel. He's looking, this is far ahead. Okay? And she conceived again, not by him. She would go out and get lovers. She'd run off and leave him. And she'd go get a lover. And she'd get pregnant and come home. This is it. I told you this is a horrible story. But this is what Israel did. And the Lord said to him, name her, this girl child, name her Lo Rumah. And Lo is a Hebrew word. Lo is a little adverb of negation. See that word right there? You can see it? It's like backwards from L. It's low. Low. Like this. Low. Or low.
What sound does that make?
Huh? Low. Low. That's it. Low. That's what it's talking about.
Which one's the low one?
Low. Low. Starts out with a lamet. Now that aleph there isn't sound. You got to have a vowel to make it low. Okay? Come this afternoon and I'll teach you that.
Okay.
All right, you better be here now. All right. Lo Ruamah. Okay? Lo Ruamah. I will no longer have compassion. In that word is ruach, spirit. Does your spirit weep sometimes for compassion and sorrow? You see, weep. And what it says here is there's not going to be any, I'm not going to weep. I'm not going to have compassion. My spirit will not have mercy on this child because this child is not mine. This child is illegitimate child. I'm married to this woman, but she ran off and got pregnant and come home. Her lovers didn't provide for her. And God will say that over and over again. I will no longer have compassion on the house of Israel, and I should ever forgive them. And I will have compassion on the house of Judah and deliver them by the Lord their God, and I will not deliver them by sword, battle horses, or horsemen. When she had weaned Lo Ruamah, she conceived again. She ran off again. She ran off again. She didn't conceive from her husband. She would not have anything to do with her husband. Her husband was not her lover. Her husband was her provider. She used the name of her husband, but she would not live with him. And the Lord said, name him Lo-Ami. Lo-Ami. Lo-Ami means not, adverb of negation again. not my people. Not my people. Because he's not mine. He's not mine. For you are not my people, and I am not your God. This child is not my child, and I am not his God. Now we're looking at this. Now here we have this prophet, Hosea. And Hosea, he is, his name means Jehovah his help, or Jehovah saves, okay? That's what Hosea means. And he marries this loose woman. Because God married a loose woman, Israel. For you're not my people, and I am not your God. Yet the number of the sons of Israel will be like the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured or numbered. In the second chapter now. Say to your brothers Ami, and to your sisters Ruhamah, argue with your mother and contend, for she is not my wife and I'm not her husband. I want you to argue with your mother. And I want you to contend with her. I want you to try to straighten her out. God was feeding them. And let her put away her harlotry from her face and from between her breasts. Her lovers would lie between her bosom. Very plain. Lest I strip her neck and expose her as the day when she was born. I will also make her like a wilderness, like a desert land. Now, did the Lord do that to Israel? Did he run them out of the land and turn their land into a desert? Yeah. All the trees are gone and everything. Verse number 4 says, also I will have no compassion on her children, because they are children of a harlotry. They are children of a harlotry.
Now he's really talking about Israel there, right?
Yep. Talking about Israel. And verse number 16, the restoration of Israel now. Verse 5 is one of the key verses. For their mother has played the harlot, and she conceived them as acted shamefully, and she said, I will go after my lovers, who give me bread, and my water, and my wool, and my flax, and my oil, and my drink. He said, I will hedge her away with thorns, and I will build a wall against her so that she cannot find her path. And she will pursue her lovers, but she will not overtake them. And she will seek them, but will not find them. And then she say, I'll go back to my first husband, for it was better for me then than now. For she does not know that it was I who gave her the grain, the new wine, and the oil, and lavished on her silver and gold. God blesses his people. You don't get anything of your own. God bless you with it. Blesses you your health to work. Wait till you don't have any health to work. And then find out. It wasn't you that was doing all of it. It's the Lord allowing you. All right? Verse all the way down to verse number 14, the restoration of Israel. Therefore, behold, I will allure her, bring her into the wilderness, and speak kindly to her, and I will give her vineyards from there, and the valley of Achor, the door of hope, and she will sing there in the days of her youth, as in the day when she came up from the land of Egypt. And it will come about, declares the Lord, that you will call me Ishi. You will call me Ishi. Ishi is my husband, my man. And no longer call me Bale. Bale. All right? Her husband, she was a prostitute. She went up there. Here, the Lord is married to this woman, and she's up there prostituting herself as one of these prostitutes in the temples of Baal. You'll no longer call your husband Baali, but you'll call me your man, your husband. For I will remove the names of Baals from her mouth. In that day I will also make a covenant for them with the beasts of the field and the birds of the sky and the creeping things of the ground, and I will abolish the bow and the sword and the war from the land, and will make them lie down in safety. He's jumping way ahead, isn't he? He said, I betrothed you for me forever. Yes, I will betroth you to me in righteousness and in justice and loving kindness and in compassion. When's that going to happen?
After the tribulation.
After the tribulation period. He's got to break them. Israel's still ungodly today. Judah is still ungodly today. They're still that way. Verse number 23. And I will sow her for myself in the land, and I will have compassion on her, and who had not obtained compassion. And I will say to those who were not my people, you are my people, and they will say, you are my God. You know what? That happened in our age, doesn't it? We didn't have a God, did we? Not really. We were a no people. If you weren't of Israel, Israel was the promised people, weren't they? And here in the church age that we live in today, we who had no God now have a God. We were a no people, but we're a people. Chapter 3. Then the Lord said to me, go again and love a woman who is loved by her husband and yet adulterous. Even as the Lord loves the sons of Israel, though they turn to other gods and love and raisin cakes. All right, look at this. Love and raisin cake. These are all the feasts that they used up there in those temples that I told you about. This is the feast that they had there. So I bought her for myself, 15 shekels of silver and a homer and a half of barley. And it goes on. Then I said to her, you shall stay with me for many days, and you shall not play the harlot, nor shall you have a man, so I will also be towards you. Chapter 4. God's controversy with Israel. Listen to the word of the Lord, Lord, O sons of Israel, for the Lord has a case against the inhabitants of the land, because there is no faithfulness, or kindness, or knowledge of God in the land. There is swearing, deception, murder, stealing, adultery. They implore violence. They have bloodshed, follows bloodshed. Therefore the land mourns, and everyone who lives in it languishes, along with the beasts of the field and the birds of the sky. All creation suffers when mankind is ungodly, doesn't it? When man rapes the earth and devastates the earth and just turns it upside down, the earth suffers violence. The earth suffers violence. And even the fish of the sea. And verse number 4. Yet let no one find fault, and let no one offer reproof, for your people are like those who contend with a priest. All right? So you will stumble by the day, and the prophet also will stumble with you by the night, and I will destroy your mother. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. How many times have you ever heard a sermon preached on that? My people are destroyed for the lack of true knowledge. The knowledge of the Lord. That's why we say God's Word. Because you have rejected knowledge, my knowledge is what it's talking about. You have rejected my knowledge. I will also direct you from being my priest, since you have forgotten the law of your God. Now he said, all of the priests that are there, I'm going to get rid of them, because they don't know the Lord either. I remember one time, I was talking to this woman, and she had been a Baptist, and she started going to a Catholic church. I said, what in the world are you going to a Catholic church for? You know, that sounds pretty crazy, doesn't it, Sister Andy? And she said, well, she said, I really like the way they do things and everything there. And besides that, the priest that we have, he's saved. He knows the Lord. He has the experience of grace. Then let him go to one of God's churches and get baptized and join one of them and serve that way. That would be my solution. All right. They have rejected my knowledge. In verse number, chapter 4, and verse number 11, harlotry, wine, and new wine take away the understanding. Harlotry, wine, and new wine take away understanding. My people consult their wooden idols. That's what they do. They consult their wooden idols. And their diviner's wand informs them. For a spirit of harlotry has led them astray. In harlotry is evil spirits. In all great vices of mankind, there is demonic activity. Did you know that? Demonic activity. And have played the harlot, departing from their God. They offer sacrifices on the top of mountains and burn incense on the hills. Now this is adultery. God says this is adultery. This is fornication. This is what you call spiritual fornication. And the spiritual fornication is worse than the physical fornication. Under the oak and the poplar and the terebinth, because their shade is pleasant. Therefore your daughters play harlot. Your daughters go up on the high hills and become harlots. prostitutes. Your bribes commit adultery. Your brides commit adultery. And I will punish your daughters when they play the harlot, and your brides when they commit adultery. For the men themselves go apart with harlots, and offer sacrifices, and temple prostitutes, so the people without understanding are ruined. He said, you're like a stubborn heifer, in verse number 16. Israel is like a stubborn heifer, he says. Can the Lord now pasture them, like a lamb in the field? Ephraim is joined to idols, and let him alone. Their liquor is gone. They play the harlot continually. Liquor and harlotry go together. Drugs and harlotry go together. Isn't it always that way? Is it still that way today? The people's apostasy is rebuked. For you have been a snare, Mitzpah. That means watchtower. By the way, brother Brett, you want to write down there, watchtower. Mitzpah means watchtower. And has spread the net in Tabor. Tabor means a high mountain. And gone deep into depravity. I will chastise all of them. And I know Ephraim and Israel is not hidden from me. For now, O Ephraim, you have played the harlot, and Israel has defiled itself. See? Their deeds will not allow them to return to their God, for a spirit of harlotry is with them. They are demon-possessed. And false religion is demons. We have truth and God in true religion. But we have false religion. He said, for they, in verse 7, for they have born illegitimate children. Now the new moon will devour them in their land, and blow the horn in Gibeah, the trumpet in Ramah, sound the alarm at Beth-aven. Beth-aven, look at that word Beth-aven. Circle that little word. That means the house of ill repute, the house of sin, the house of prostitutes, or house religion. Behind you, Benjamin, Ephraim will become a desolation and day of rebuke. Chapter 6, the response to God's rebuke. Come, let us return to the Lord. How many times have you heard that sermon preached? Come, let us return. From the book of Hosea, people take little bitty pieces and make big sermons out of it. But the whole book is a story of horror and deceit. Come, let us return to the Lord. For he has torn us, but he will heal us. He has wounded us, but he will bandage us. He will revive us after 2 days, and will raise us up on the third day, that we may live before him. What is that talking about right there? All of a sudden, here in the midst of the book of Hosea, we have a messianic prophecy. In the book of Jonah, we have a messianic prophecy. We studied the book of Jonah before, and we won't study it again, but the book of Jonah. Jonah went into Nineveh. He did not want to go. He jumped on a boat to go in the opposite direction, and God sent a great storm. And the crew on that boat asked Jonah, what have you done? What have you done to your God that we are in this trouble? And he said, what did Jonah tell them? Throw him off the boat. He said, I'm the cause. When they threw him off the boat, they didn't want to throw him off the boat because that was like murdering him. They were afraid. God is mad at us. Right now, there's something going on out here. We got a storm that's coming from the Lord. They knew this was a storm from the Lord, and they were afraid. And they just sure didn't want to offend the God that was already mad. So it said, you think it'll be all right if we throw you in the water to drown? Will it be okay? So Jonah was thrown into the water. And then what happened to Jonah when he got into the water? Did he find a boat? Another boat? What happened?
The waters became still.
Huh? The waters became still, but what came along? A great big fish.
A fish, sorry.
A great big fish. And a great big fish swallowed Jonah and killed him. Jonah was dead. Dead. Jonah died. Okay? He didn't stay alive in the fish's belly. As so many people, oh, well, they can do that. Has happened. People have stayed alive in the fish's belly. Baloney. Jonah was dead in the fish's belly. And he cried up to the Lord from where?
Sheol.
Sheol. Thank you, brother. Now, where's Sheol? Is that the fish's belly? That's a place of departed spirits. He was in the place of departed spirits. And God sent him on a 3-day trip by fish's belly. And when he got him over there to where he was going, over to Nineveh, he spit him out on the land and he revived. He went back in his body. And Jesus says, I will give you the sign of Jonah. Jonah was dead in the fish's belly for 3 days. And he revived when he was spit out on the water. God put spirit back into him. How many of you ever heard that? That's what happened. He didn't stay alive in the fish's belly. He was dead. He was a dead man. It wouldn't be... Now, if he stayed alive in the fish's belly, and he spit him out on the ground and he revived, you know what that's talking about? There are people that say that Jesus just fainted on the cross, that he was actually alive, and that he revived when they put him in the cool tomb. That's not what happened. Jonah died in the fish's belly. Jesus died on the cross of Calvary, put him in a grave, and after 3 days he stood up. And that's what this is talking about. He will revive after 2 days, and he will raise up on the 3rd day that we may live before him. All right? That's a messianic prophecy. There are several messianic prophecies and prophecies in the book of Hosea. All right? This is the book. Talks about whorehouse religion. Israel's whorehouse religion. Their church house was a whorehouse. That's all it was, a house of ill repute. And then down here, we've heard this one so many times in verse number 6 and 6. I delight in loyalty. God said, I delight in loyalty rather than sacrifice, and in knowledge of God rather than burnt offerings. Now, how many times in the New Testament have you seen that? Matthew 9:13, 12 and 7, Isaiah 1 and 11. New Testament scriptures. All right? And in the knowledge of God rather than burnt offerings. To be dealt with treacherously. God's wife, Israel, dealt with God treacherously. She lied to him. She smiled and tricked him. He said she had bloody footprints. Number 7. Ephraim's iniquity. Ephraim is another word for what? Ephraim is another word for what? Dr. John, you know, Samaria. The Samaritans. All right, these are the Samaritans. Samaria. I would heal Israel. Iniquity of Ephraim is uncovered, and the deeds of Samaria. There you are. Hosea 7 and verse 1. For they deal falsely. The thief enters and bandits raid outside, and they do not consider their hearts. And I remember all their wickedness. Now their deeds and all around them, they are before my face. With their wickedness, they make the king glad, and the princes with their lies. And by the way, they had called princes not by God, but by their own call. Now, go down to verse number 6, 7 and 6. For their hearts are like what?
The oven?
An oven. What was Gomer's name? Gomer. What was her name? Hot stuff. Hot chick. That's what her name was. Hot stuff. She was hot stuff, but not for her husband. She chased around with other men. For their hearts are like an oven, as they reproach their plotting. Their anger smolders all the night. In the morning it burns like a flaming fire. All of them are hot like an oven. And they consume the rulers. All their kings have fallen. None of them calls. Ephraim mixes himself with the nations, with the Gentiles, with the common folk. Ephraim has become a cake, not turned. Now, let me tell you, have you ever heard of somebody being soft in the head?
Yeah.
Huh? That's what this term is, soft in the head. They did not have ambient ovens back then, so when they cooked bread, they had to turn the bread over. Now, if you put a pancake on a grill, how many of you ever cooked a pancake? Anybody ever cooked a pancake? When you put a pancake on a grill and you don't turn it over, you just flop it out on your plate, what do you have?
Half done.
Gooey, half gooey, soft on the top. That's not good, is it?
No.
Ephraim's soft in the head. They're dumb. Dumber than dirt. They have a God. Ephraim mixes him with and Ephraim has become a cake half turned. He's soft in the head. He's a screwball. Verse number 11. So Ephraim has become like a silly dove without sense. They call to Egypt and they go to Assyria. They tried to get the world to back them up and to strengthen them. A dove will flitter here and flitter there. That's what it's talking about. To flitter here and flitter there. I remember one time somebody preached a sermon on flitter here and flitter there. You ever heard that one, Sister Andino? Yeah. That flitter here and flitter there. Flitter from church to church. Flitter here and flitter there. Not having any foundation. Flitter, flitter, flitter. That's what it's talking about there. Whole sermons. The book of Hosea, a lot of people have taken just one verse out of Hosea and preached many sermons. Have you ever heard that, Sister Linda? Rex? You ever heard some of those sermons?
I've heard the
Not
start
that
of
one.
Hosea. I've heard that several times, but
Flitter, flitter.
yeah.
All right. Israel reaps in chapter 8, Israel reaps the whirlwind. But the trumpet to your lips, like an eagle, the enemy comes against the house of the Lord, because they have transgressed my covenant and rebelled against my law. They cry out to me, my God, we of Israel know thee, and Israel has rejected good, and the enemy will pursue him. They have set up kings, but not by my authority. Remember what I told you this a few minutes ago. They have appointed princes, but I do not know them. Ungodly buzzard. With their silver and gold they have made idols for themselves on Mount Gerizim, that they might be cut off. He has rejected your calf, O Samaria, saying, my anger burns against them. You know, they offered calves for sacrifices in Israel on different days. But Samaria worshipped a calf. Remember when Israel came out of Egypt?
Yeah.
Who did all the miracles in Egypt? Who was the guy that performed the miracles? What was his name?
Was it Aaron?
Well, Aaron or
Aaron.
Moses?
Aaron performed all the miracles, and Aaron is the one that spoke to Pharaoh, not Moses. Aaron's rod. He threw his rod down, and Aaron's rod became a great serpent and swallowed up all the others. Aaron did all the miracles. Well, when they went up on Mount Sinai, after a little while, after they got out of there, Aaron, the prophet of God, down there while Moses was up on the mountain, Aaron was down below. By the way, what was Aaron's occupation?
He was a goldsmith.
He was a goldsmith. Israel clamored for and called for and begged for and cried for and demanded a God that they could see and a religion they could feel.
Here comes the calf.
And Aaron told them, give me all your earrings and your jewelry. And he threw it into a fire. And he took and he carved out a calf made out of wood. And he pounded sheets of gold upon it. And he stood up that calf up among them. And he said, this is Jehovah. Worship him. You know, Aaron got his, didn't God killed Aaron. He put him to death. He put him to death. Well, my anger burns against them. How long will they be incapable of innocence? Far from Israel is even this. A craftsman made it, so it is not of God. Surely the calf of Samaria will be broken to pieces. What happened there? You know, things keep repeating in the Bible, don't they? What happened to Aaron's calf in the wilderness? What happened to the calf? What did God demand Moses to do? He said, burn that calf and beat it up into powder, put it in water and make them drink it.
Yes.
Let them drink their God. Let them have indigestion. So he burned up the calf, Of course, the calf was, the inside of the calf was wooden and outside was gold, and they burned it up and beat it up. You have people today that have gold-plated chocolate. 24 karat gold. Have you ever seen things like that? Gold plating on cakes and stuff. This is the fact. This is the rich calf. All right, gold leaf. Ever heard of this, Brother Brad?
No, on chocolate.
Gold plate, huh?
No, on chocolate.
No chocolate. Yeah. Gold plated, real gold. I got their dessert with that burnt up calf with gold on it. For they sow the wind, and they reap the whirlwind. The standing grain has no heads, and yields no grain. Should it yield to strangers who would swallow it up? Israel is swallowed up. They are not among the nations, like a vessel in which no one delights. For they have gone up to Assyria, like a wild donkey all alone. Ephraim has hired lovers. Ephraim is a prostitute. She has hired her lovers. Chapter 9. Do not rejoice, O Israel, with exultation like the nations. For you have played the harlot, forsaking your God. You have loved harlots, burning on every threshing floor. Earnings on every, in all the threshing floors, they have harlots. The whole land is a land of prostitution. Whorehouse religion. Their religion was whoredom. Remember the Baals. They went on the mountaintops, and the farmers would all go up there and fornicate with the prostitutes so they would have a good crop. Sow their seeds so their crops would be fertile. Ungodliness. Verse number 8. Ephraim is a watchman. Brother Brent gave me a book a long time ago to read. He wanted me to read this book. It was called Watchman Nee, written by Watchman Nee.
Watchman Nee,
Yeah, probably where he got his name. Ephraim is a watchman with my God, a prophet, yet the snare of the bird catcher is in all his ways, and there is only hostility in the house of his God. Chapter 10. We're kind of going through this book quickly. We're going to try to cover it today, and then we'll go through HODs, minor prophets, and we'll be in the New Testament in just a few weeks. Lord willing, and lets me live. A few more days like yesterday, and I won't be long. I tell you. Retribution for Israel's sin. Israel is a luxuriant vine. He produces fruit for himself. The more his fruit, the more altars that he makes. The more he is blessed, the more idols he builds. The richer his land, the better he made the sacred pillars. Their heart is faithless. They must bear their guilt. The Lord will break down their altars and destroy their sacred pillars. Surely now they will say, we have no king. We do not revere the Lord. As for the king, what can he do for us? Verse number 4. They speak mere words. With worthless oaths, they make covenants. A man and a woman, when they come together in marriage, they make an oath to each other to be faithful to each other. God was faithful, but Israel was faithless. God was holy, and Israel was a harlot. And Israel made her house of worship a house of ill reproof. The judgment sprouts like poisonous weeds in the furrows. You know, we got a weed out there in our place. It's called
Several of them.
have that poisonous one with berries that your mother was making fruit on. Nightshade. Nightshade.
Oh, well, she didn't know it was nightshade.
She
was told it was another
nightshade. A pig won't even eat nightshade. Pigs got better sense than some people. They do. And what people stick down their necks and shoot in their veins and do to themselves. What? Then heavens and earth will fill for the calf of Beth Avim, the calf of the house of ill repute, the calf, the whorehouse religion up there on Mount Gerizim. The house of ill repute. That's what that means. The house of ill repute. The house of sin. Indeed, its people will mourn for it. Its idolatrous priests will cry out over its glory, since it has departed from it. The thing itself will be carried to Assyria as tribute to the king of Jeroboam, and Ephraim will be seized with shame, and Israel will be ashamed of its own counsel. Samaria will be cut off with her king, like a stick on the surface of the water, floating down the river. Even the high places of sin, the high places of Aven means sin. Aven. The sin of Israel will be destroyed. Thorn and thistle will grow on their altars, and they will say to the mountains, cover, and to the hills, fall on us. Remember, that's also in the New Testament, in the book of Revelation. Here we have a quote. Fall on us from the days of Gibeah. You have sinned, O Israel. There they stand, will not battle against the sons of iniquity. Who is a great son of iniquity in the New Testament? Satan. Satan or the Antichrist. There was a man that lived a long time ago. He knew my family well in Halls Valley, Oklahoma. He was one of the most famous lawyers in history. And his name was what? Anybody remember that famous lawyer? Moulman Pruitt. Moulman Pruitt was playing cards with my cousin Jennison McClure one night. And my two uncles came there looking for him to kill him because he had killed their brother. And talked their brother into killing their father. This was a bad situation. Killing, shoot. And old Jennison was playing cards with Moulman Pruitt. And he told him, he said, Bill Paul's in the valley. Better not go out there. Bill Paul's in the valley. This Indian comes in there and says, Bill Paul's here. I saw Bill Paul. Well, Jennison knew that Bill Paul was going to kill him. Or pretty much had an idea that he was going to kill him. He was going to bring retribution. These were Indians. This chick was all Indian. That's the way they did. You have a problem with the family takes care of the problem. You got a girl that's bad, you got a boy that's bad, you cut the throat. It's your job, not society's. It's your job. Get rid of them. Put them away. All right? Well, the family. So he said, I go home. That's what Moulman Pruitt said in his biography. Jennison said, I go home. You better not go home. Stay here tonight, Jennison. I go home. So he goes home, and they hear a shot. And my great-grandmother told me that her brother had killed Jennison. And they took him and put him on a railroad track and let the Santa Fe railroad track run over him. And Moulman Pruitt said, after they picked the pieces up, he said, if you put him back together and look someplace in them, there's little bitty holes that Santa Fe railroad didn't put in. Retribution. Moulman Pruitt came to the West Coast a few times because he was a famous trial lawyer, criminal lawyer. He came out here and he, I think there was 343, if I remember right, murder cases that he defended, and not one of them was convicted and sent to the gas chamber or the hanging or whatever. They all got loose. He was an unusual young man. He was very brilliant. And he was of poor circumstances, raised in poverty. And his father was a butcher, and he was much older than his mother. And they always called him lamb chops, and he'd get mad and fight. He couldn't get along to school or anything. But he was honest. He tried to do what was right. He worked hard, and people would always steal and rob from him and blame things on him. So he went to prison when he was about 14 years old. Went to prison. A young boy went to prison. His mother begged him. He said, he's innocent. And he said, and he said, you got anything to say, boy? And he said, I'm innocent. But just go ahead. I can take anything you do to me. He said, I'm innocent. But it sent him to prison. And the next time, he went to prison again. They got out of prison. He went and worked hard again. And somebody blamed him for a conspiracy and embezzlement. He didn't do it. Somebody else did. But they blamed it on him. I've turned this old machine over. And he stood before the judge, and his poor old mother stood there and begged the judge not to send him to prison. Moulman Pruitt said again, I am innocent, and your system is worthless. Your system of justice is no justice at all. He said, you send me to prison and I'll become a lawyer and I will send every thief and robber and murderer and turn them loose on the streets. And he did. He represented people. One time a man called him and says, I am being tried for murder. Would you, he said, I have $3,000. Will you be my attorney? He said, I'll be there in 3 days with 3 eyewitnesses.
Whoa.
He's already got that.
Yeah. And he got him off.
He's already got
The guy was plainly guilty of murder. But Moulman Pruitt memorized the whole Bible. He memorized the Bible. He did believe in God, even though he bent the rules and law, because he said our law system is terrible. Our judicial system is horrible. And I know that, personally. I've been down there 14, 15 trucks in Avenue. I see the corruption here. Corruption. Corruption. That's what was going on in the land. Moulman Pruitt went up to Seattle, Washington. He tried a murder case up there, and he got to drinking and playing cards too much. And he's from Pauls Valley, Oklahoma. Well, he's found out his preacher was up there that he had supported in the church there in Pauls Valley. And went to his house and had dinner with him and everything, and the preacher was really glad to see him. He said, I'm in a bind. He said, I'm out of town, I'm from Oklahoma, this is Seattle, and I can't cash a check here. And he said, the West Coast, he said, is so much different than back there. He said, there's so much wildness and lewdness out here. Lewdness. He said, I can't believe the lewdness that's here. Oh, the preacher says, I'll co-sign that check with you. And you just take it down here to this president of this bank here. He said, I got a lot of money in that bank. He said, you take it down to the president of this bank. He said, they'll cash it in this bank. Or if that one doesn't cash it, he wanted $500. That was a lot of money. This was about $1899, $1900. He goes to the bank, and the guy turned him down with the biggest church co-signing. So he takes it to the other church. The other bank. So he said, well, I'll go to this other bank. He goes into that one. And after some long faces and several words and some long waiting, he didn't cash the check then either. He goes back to the hotel, and they call his name over the loudspeaker for Moulman Pruitt. And he was so sick, he was just sitting there just drinking. Man, what am I going to do? How am I going to pay my bills here and get back home? He said, I got a deposition to do over there in Colorado. What am I going to do? Finally, they came and looking for him, and he was on the they had telephones then, and he called him, and he said, hi, sweetheart. This woman's voice was. Do you remember who I am? Well, he said, I don't know. He said, you defended me in my divorce case with my rich husband. Oh, Josephine. Yeah, Josephine. She said, honey, I want to see you before you leave town. His boy, he said, I'm in trouble. He said, I don't have enough money for a cab. She said, will you come to my house? Just told him the address. And he went out there, and he had $2. That's all he had, $2. Here he's one of the richest lawyers, the biggest lawyers, but he has no money. Got all kinds of checks and all kinds of money in the bank, but can't get anything out here on the West Coast. So he asked this cab driver, he says, where is this address? He looked at it, he said, yeah, I know where it is. He said, what is this place? He said, that is the most fanciest brothel in this country. He goes up there and he walks in this mansion with marble and silks and plush, completely plush, and here comes this woman sashaying down this beautiful staircase. Dogs are running around all over the floor, fancy dogs and everything. And he set him down there with crystal stuff all over, on luxurious velvet couches and everything. Then she comes out there, and how are you doing, Moulman, honey? He said, I'm in trouble, girl. She said, have a drink. So she goes and gets champagne for him. He said, I'm in trouble. He said, I got to leave on a train and go take a deposition in Colorado. And he said, I have no money to pay my bills. He said, I need some money. She said, well, how much do you need? He said, $500. She said, that's nothing. She said, I'll co-sign for it. And you go over to this bank and tell him. He said, I've already been there. She said, that's all right. She called, picks up on the phone, and she calls to the bank president. He said, now, honey, you'll take care of my good friend, won't you? And he went to the bank, and the guy gave him the money just like that. And he looked at that bank president. He says, now, you didn't take the money out that I owe you for the exchange here. He said, no exchange, no money. He said, we do things differently out here. He said, I think so. He said, I went to the largest Baptist church in this area and had the Baptist preach, co-sign my check, and you wouldn't cash it. And he said, I go to the biggest brothel out here, and she signs my check, and you cash it. So it's got to have the biggest preacher and the biggest prostitute in this area? He said, what kind of place is this? He went back. So he made one more trip out to San Francisco with old Sam Garvin. They go out to San Francisco. And he comes up to that area. And he looks, and this is about 1900 now. And it's wild. And the prostitution, and the lesbianism, the homosexuality, everything, the corruption that was there. You know, I mean, this is what he did for a living, criminal lawyer. But he looked and saw all of this going on, and he said, oh boy, God's going to judge this country. He's going to judge the West Coast. He said if he judged Sodom and Gomorrah, he's going to have to make an excuse why he didn't judge this place. He said something's going to happen to this place. This place is going to be leveled. And he was drunk when he was telling them this. He said God's going to level this place. He said this place can't escape the judgment of God, just like in the book of Hosea. This place can't escape the judgment of God. Just a few months later, San Francisco had a gigantic earthquake and it burned to the ground. And Bowman Pruitt said, see, God doesn't like that. His wife didn't like living in Oklahoma. And he had already buried his wife. His wife, in my family's cemetery back there, is a great big pillar in there. It's Bowman Pruitt's wife, and right below that is his Paul family cemetery. And this is a new cemetery. The old cemetery is what the old Paul's Valley Cemetery. But in the new one, supposedly his wife was the first one buried there. Bowman Pruitt decided to go to Florida. And guess who he moved in next door to? Al Capone. And all the thugs and thieves and gun runners and druggies and rum runners all in the area. And he looked around this place and he told his wife, he said, this place is, he said, I'm hearing bells. The bells of judgment. I'm hearing the bells of judgments. God is going to judge this place. He's going to judge it. He said, I was back here in Oklahoma in Paul's Valley that time, he said, when I saw that doctor on the street. And he said, I heard bells ringing in my ears, and that was the bells of judgment. And he said, that man tried to shoot him. Put a pistol out to him and pulled the trigger. He took that pistol away from him later on, and they arrested him and everything else. This doctor was going to kill him because he had got somebody off for murder that they didn't like. He was going to kill the lawyer. Up in his office years later, he was up there and they were drinking and going on and everything else. And he had that gun still there with that shell in the chamber with a firing pin dented. And he said, oh, I tell you what. He said, I bet that shell wouldn't shoot. He rolls it around to that shell and he fires it out the window and it will go wham! Put his drink down. He says, God protected me. I should have died. He said, I heard those bells ringing, the bells of judgment, when that guy was going to kill me. And he told his wife, he said, I hear the bells of judgment ringing in my head. God is going to judge this place with a hurricane or something. He said, if we don't get out of here and sell all, he had a lot of property down there. He said, if we don't sell it, it's going to be leveled. Within a year, that place was leveled with a hurricane. He lost all his money. God yearns over his people. When Israel was a youth, I loved him. And out of Egypt I called my son. 12, chapter 12. Ephraim feeds on wind and pursues the east wind continually. He multiplies lies and violence. Ephraim's idolatry in Samaria, chapter 13. When Ephraim spoke, there was trembling, and he exalted himself in Israel. But through Baal he did wrong, and he died. Remember what Baal was?
He's a big guy.
That's the prostitutes up there. He's asking God to bless his land by these farmers in his land going up there and fornicating with these prostitutes and sowing their seeds so they'll have a crop. Now they sin, and more, and make for themselves molten images and idols and skillfully made from their silver, and all of them the work of craftsmen. And they say of them, let the men who sacrifice kiss the calves. Idolaters also kiss Buddha. What they do, kiss his belly, rub his belly.
Yeah, rub his belly.
Yeah, rub his belly.
Yeah.
All them the work of men's hands. And they kiss the work of men's hands. At the end of chapter 13, it says, shall I ransom them from the power of Sheol? Shall I redeem them from death? O death, where are your thorns? O Sheol, where is your sting? Compassion will be hidden from my sight. Where do you think you heard this verse before? 1 Corinthians 15:55, was it? 1 Corinthians 15:55. O death, where is thy sting? O grave, where is thy victory? O Sheol, where is your victory? God is the God of heaven and the God of hell. He controls heaven and hell. Though he flourishes among the reeds, an east wind will come, a wind of the Lord coming up from the wilderness. His fountain will become dry, and his spring will be dried up, and it will plunder his treasure and every precious article. Samaria will be held guilty, for she has rebelled against her God, and they will fall by the sword. Their little ones will be dashed to pieces. Their pregnant women will be ripped open. No compassion. And that's what happened. No compassion. They ripped them up. They destroyed them. I remember back in my family again, when Jesse and my great-great-grandfather Sam Paul were riding with Custer. They went down on the Battle of the Washita. Custer had signed them up as Indian scouts. And they got down to the Battle of Washita, and they had talked to this other Indian there, and he said, you better make sure that you don't get mistaken for the bad Indians. Because he said, stay close to Custer, stay close to the troops. And they picked Sam because he was the greatest shot in the Indian Territory. They took him out as a sharpshooter to go into the village. Well, what was supposed to be, this is Black Kettle's village, Cheyenne village, or where they're supposed to be. But Custer has his mind, he's going to move them onto the reservation, but there's going to be resistance, so he's going to kill them all. And he's going to have great victory over these women and children because the men were outnumbered. Sam Paul was standing there on his horse, and they come up to the village, and old Custer has that famous ballad blown from his, what was it? I can't think of the name.
Gary Owen.
What? Gary Owen. And they start charging the village. Early in the morning, they're all still asleep, and the women and children run out, and they're shooting the women and the children down. And Sam looks at them, and he sees his own mother and sister and family being shot down. And he turns on the soldier and starts beating him. He said, this is not a military excursion to move these people. This is murder. This is murder. And they went out there and they ripped the pregnant women open and dashed the little unborn babies' heads against the trees. They killed them all. Murdered them. That's what's going to happen here to Samaria. Return, O Israel, to the Lord your God. For you have stumbled because of your iniquity. We all sin, don't we? We all stumbled, but we need to remember our God. Assyria will not save us. We will not ride on horses. We're not going to trust in the world's power. Nor will we say again, our God. The work of our hands, for in thee the orphan finds mercy. I will heal their apostasy. I will love them freely, and for my anger has turned away from them. I will be like the dew to Israel, and he will blossom like the lily. And he will take root like the cedars of Lebanon. His shoots will sprout. His beauty will be like the olive tree, and his fragrance like the cedars of Lebanon. Those who live in the shadow, in the shade, will again rise and grain. They will blossom like the vine. His renown will be like the wine of Lebanon. O Ephraim, what more have I to do with idols? It is I who answer and look after you. I am a luxuriant cypress. From me comes your fruit. Whoever is wise, and let him understand these things. Whoever is discerning, let him know them. For the ways of the Lord are right, and the righteous will walk in them, but transgressors will stumble by them. And that's the end of the book of Hosea. I hope that you enjoyed that book today. It's really a rough book, hard language to a hard-headed people. Rough language.
Stiff-necked people.
What?
Stiff-necked.
Stiff-necked, hard-hearted, idolatrous prostitutes. All right. Rough people. A rough message to a rough people. Do you have any questions? No questions. Brother Brett, are you going to come up here and do anything?
Questions, just answers. We have no announcements today?